Okay, that last one ended a bit more prematurely than I expected. But Churchill, the Bulldog, grew up in Blenheim. Come on, this thing, change slides. Having technical difficulties. And what I was getting at was how one of the ways in which he really praised the British troops came after the Battle of Britain. This was a long battle, last several months, the largest air battle in history. There were some Canadians and other people involved too, but it was the German, remember the name of their Air Force? Drum roll. The RAF versus the German Luftwaffe. So, largest air battle in history, fought over England for control of the skies. For Operation Sea Lion to work, Germany was going to need to take over England's airspace so that they could then get their troops in. Their ground troops couldn't just march on over the English Channel because they're not the ones who know how to walk on water. So, largest air battle in history, happening every day over the skies for months, with many casualties. Our Wikipedia numbers here, you get a sense for how many people are killed and how many aircraft are destroyed as well, but civilian casualties happening below. So many civilian casualties happening on the ground beneath this air fight. And England loses a lot of airplanes, 1,700 airplanes, but Germany loses more. And so Hitler stops, and it's the first time that Hitler has had a significant defeat in the conflict. So Hitler loses, cannot gain control of England. It's his first setback. Churchill gives a famous speech, let's see if I can get out of here, where he, let's see if I can play this, if it'll play on here with the volume.
The gratitude of every home in our island, in our empire, and indeed throughout the world, except in the abodes of the guilty, goes out to the British airmen who, undaunted by odds, unwearied in their constant challenge and mortal danger, are turning the tide of the world war by their prowess and by their devotion. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few.
So that famous line there of never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few, thanking the Royal Air Force for their wartime contributions in that Battle of Britain. So Hitler lost control of England, but now, and some other action has been taking place over in Eastern Europe. The Italians and the Nazis have gone through this area of Eastern Europe. Hitler, you see this light blue area, Hitler is going to turn his back on the Soviet Union. He had that Nazi-Soviet non-aggression pact. Stalin was stupid enough to trust Hitler just as other countries had trusted him at the Munich conference. And so when he loses England, it sets the stage for Operation Barbarossa. Barbarossa, German for Redbeard. Frederick the Redbeard was a famous crusader, German king from the olden days, or the Middle Ages. So this was let's see. Well, I can't get it to go anywhere where you can see it. So the Nazi invasion of the USSR, known as Operation Barbarossa. So it goes into effect in 1941. That fall in 1940, had to think about things. They did some fighting down in Eastern Europe, but then that next summer, they invade the Soviet Union. So no more Nazi-Soviet non-aggression pact, as now Germany is at war with the Soviet Union and their leader, Joseph Stalin. One of the worst parts of this happens up in Leningrad, so that's St. Petersburg. It's not my fault when there's a name change like this, but St. Petersburg, Petrograd, because that sounded more Russian, from Peter the Great, and then renamed for Vladimir Lenin, so Leningrad, when it's the USSR, the Soviet Union. And there's this siege of Leningrad, the Red Army. This is the formidable Soviet army fighting force. So that's the name of the Soviet Union's army in World War II, is the Red Army, red being associated with communism. And they will fight the Nazis for several years during this conflict. The two armies will fight specifically at Leningrad that I was just talking about. This is a siege that lasts over 2 years, and it is cold in Russia. They are trying to get supplies in by over frozen lakes, but this siege of Leningrad just kind of shows how horrible this conflict really is. It lasts over 2 years. The civilian casualties are high. The number of troops who die are high in terms of casualty rates. It is a deadly, deadly affair with this blockade of goods, keeping goods from coming into the city, as the Nazis and also some Finnish troops try to keep control of it. So a deadly long siege, just showing the brutality of World War II here, with two groups of people who don't really care about humanity between the Red Army and the Nazis. So it's just a nightmare, this whole thing. And just brutal warfare. With so much fighting happening now in this light blue area, so the Nazis and the Italians pretty much control all of this dark terrain in 1941. The Red Army and the Nazis will be fighting a good bit in this lighter shade of blue terrain, but this gets us into some of the horrors of the approaching Holocaust. The Nazis are taking over lots of land in Eastern Europe. That's home to more people who they consider undesirable. Their primary way, initially, of getting rid of those people who are undesirable based on their ethnic background or race or political status, is through death squads. So the death squads, these were let's see, I'll just try to type this again. Wish I could write on the... I have a very sensitive mouse here. These death squads have the job of Nazi troops or paramilitary troops in some cases. Good grief, anybody watching this on YouTube, I'm sorry for the terrible sentence structure. They're murdered, the unwanted, the undesirable people, captives who lived in the territory taken over by the Nazis. So basically those people would be rounded up and shot by the death squads. And as more land was taken over, there were more undesired people and especially a lot of Jewish people, a lot of ethnic Jews lived in Eastern Europe, and there became an increasingly large question about the Jewish problem as they viewed it. They needed an answer to what these sicko, racist people viewed as a Jewish problem, and that became known as the final solution. So the final solution to the Jewish problem is going to be the Holocaust. So when we give that, and I think I'll stop it here and we'll pick up with another video on the Holocaust